Okay, let's begin. Welcome to our webinar on navigating critical aspects of global trade to keep freight moving. Today, we're going to be talking with industry experts who understand global transportation and trade regulations and how customs compliance and best practices for import and export activities are essential for keeping freight moving across international borders. My name is Michael Willard, and I'll be turning our webinar over to our presenters in just a moment. Before we begin, I want to cover a few quick housekeeping items. All attendees on today's webinar are muted. The session is being recorded, and we'll share it with you shortly after it concludes. You can also look for a recording of the webinar in the resource section of our website at MercuryGate.com. It should be available later today. Our presenters have a lot of information to share, but we're planning to field your questions at the end of the conversation. Please submit those questions at any time using the Q&A feature in the webinar platform. We'll respond to as many of those questions as possible during our broadcast. With that out of the way, it's my pleasure to introduce our industry experts that are joining us today. Our panelists include moderator MercuryGate Senior Vice President of Global Trade Solutions, Don Mabry. He's joined by Steve Plattman, MercuryGate Strategic Advisor and former CEO of International Trade Systems. Our global trade experts also include Vice President of Product Development, Scott Rockhour. He joined MercuryGate as well as Steve following the acquisition of International Trade Systems last year. Combined, our panelists have more than 80 years of experience working in global trade and technology solutions that support international shippers. With that out of the way, I'll turn the presentation over to our panelist and our moderator, Don Mabry. Don?
Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Don Mabry, Senior Vice President of Global Trade Solutions for MercuryGate. Greetings and welcome to our audience participants today, and thank you for your interest in learning more about customs and trade compliance and its importance to the business. Today, I have the pleasure of moderating our session, and I'm excited to have two experts in all things customs. Let's get started. Steve, the world continues to be a chaotic place, impacted by the global trade and compliance landscape. I'm interested to hear your reaction to today's environment through the lens of U.S. customs filings and regulations.
Thanks, Don. Chaotic is right, as most of you already know. With the regulations being added all the time and almost every government agency wanting to join in the fray, it's our job as technologists to ease that pain of submitting data to customs and getting it cleared, and to ensure you, our customers, avoid penalties. So my challenge to all of you really over the next 20 to 30 minutes is to think about the following. Is your current process working? Is your supply chain as efficient as it can be? Do you have a grasp on the cost of any delays and penalties that have occurred over the past year? Are you confident that your goods aren't being held up at customs with all the new regulations in place? Do you have visibility to be able to communicate in real time to your customers? And achieving customs compliance, even in a static environment, is a complex process. So there's dozens of data points, there's multiple parties, and those all vary product to product. So our environment is far from static. What we do is like complexity on steroids. Ever-changing regulations, Customs and Border Protection, partner agencies like the FDA, shifts in trade agreements, sanctions, tariffs, and on top of all of that, general disruption is forcing changes in the origin and routing of goods, such as what's going on in the Red Sea. We also have issues going on in the Panama Canal. So it's not like you can document a cookie cutter style of process to all this. The need for intelligent automation is no longer a nice to have. And for those of you who know me, I've been saying this for quite a while. It's an absolute requirement for basic survival, let alone providing the ability for you to grow. Without it, headcounts are going to expand, errors are going to occur, delays are going to happen, penalties are going to get assessed. And all of this is going to grow at a greater rate than the volumes of actually moving the freight. So what I have seen really over the past few years with shippers, 3PLs, freight forwarders, and custom brokers, as well as the importers self-filing, everybody's in the process of digitizing and automating their entire supply chain. So it is really critical that the customs filing and clearance process needs to do the same, or else it will become the dam across the river. Therefore, the need for intelligent automation, business rules, workflows is critical for shippers and service providers alike if they have plans to survive, just survive, let alone to grow.
Steve, you make some great points. The customs compliance space is in a constant state of flux. It's driven by regulatory and market conditions that requires organizations to explore techniques and tools to get a handle on the complexity in an efficient way. As we both know, not only revenue generation, but operating efficiency is becoming increasingly important for today's importers. How do you see companies navigating challenges in the current U.S. customs and trade compliance industry and ultimately protecting their profit margin?
Whether importers or exporters, self-filing or custom brokers, all of you, again, everybody's digitalizing the supply chain to enable automation. There's really no way around it if you're going to be profitable today. So, two essential challenges: end-to-end supply chain visibility. So the entire ecosystem needs to be visible, from purchase orders submitted, goods being delivered to the overseas container yards, containers loaded on the vessels or airplanes, the clearance of goods, the arrival in the US, and finally delivery to the customer. Each step in that process needs to be seamless, and it needs to be visible. Because every shipment is unique with different products, carriers, origin countries, having a proactive operational dashboard to boil the critical areas for attention to your attention and have a near lights out capability to deal with the rest. Again, it's not nice to have, folks. It's required. To protect profit margins, these two tenets: first, visibility; second, proactive dashboards have to be digital, have to be automated to make, again, what we've said earlier, a complex process more manageable.
You know, having clear insight into the supply chain is really important, especially when we're talking about getting more detailed information about major events in the import process, like customs clearance activities and what's going on there. This becomes super crucial for organizations that are looking to grow their business volumes in the most efficient way possible. Technology is a powerful tool that can be brought to bear to provide real-world solutions to thorny problems, especially in international trade. Scott, would you share a bit about where and how companies are currently using technologies to generate increasing value while lowering risk for the organization and their customers?
Sure. Everybody on this call knows that importing products was once much easier, and being a broker was much more fun. Well, I guess that depends on your definition of fun, but that's what I've been told. Sure, there's always rules and regulations based on modes of transportation, tariff numbers, and the like. But now a customs broker, or as Steve mentioned, self-filer for that matter, needs to be able to navigate 17 other agencies or PGAs like APHIS and AMS that require data that was never requested before. This equates to knowing rules for about 42 agency programs. And this can be a daunting task, even for the most knowledgeable broker out there. So let's take a simple produce item like onions. In the past, this was pretty straightforward. You know, you electronically filed for CBP and FDA, and sure, you may have to submit a PPQ form, but that was basically it. Today, you will need to provide data to a multitude of USDA programs, APHIS, AMS, and if they're organic onions, then also NOP. While some of these data overlap, a lot of the data is not the same. So for example, for FDA, you'll need an FDA product code, packing information. If those onions were canned, look out. You need lot numbers, can dimensions, SID numbers, and all sorts of other things. For APHIS, you'll need genus, species, and characteristics. AMS requires a UNSPC code, which is a taxonomy, products, and services code. That's stuff you never had to deal with before. For NOP, depending on whether the certificate was filed electronically or not, may require an ID number, organic certificate issuer, and handler. This is all craziness. Listen, I know I'm throwing out a lot of acronyms out there. You know, customs is really, really good at it. But let me just share some of them for some of you first timers out there, or for some of you that don't import, you know, food products. So CBP is Customs and Border Patrol. ACE is the Automated Commercial Environment. USDA and FDA, I'm sure everybody knows who they are, right? APHIS is Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services. PPQ is Plant Protection and Quarantine, which is a program under APHIS. AMS is the Agricultural Marketing Services, which is a division of USDA. That's where they do their grading and some other stuff, right? NOP is the National Organics Program, and this is a program under AMS. PGA is all the partner government agencies, which encompasses all the agencies that partner with CBP to collect data. So I think Michael will give you a quiz at the end, but do you get all that? Okay, so how do we help? MercuryGate Customs and Trade Compliance software not only helps the filer in navigating the rough terrain of the required data, but also can help inform importers and others of permit status dispositions, not only of CBP, but of all of the other agencies. These can be disseminated via push notifications or dashboards. Steve mentioned workflows, right? So internal workflows can be created to manage shipments by exception. You guys process thousands of entries a month, but you're really only concerned with the ones that have not been cleared, pending payment, or a variety of other reasons like, you know, rescinded, you know, releases and stuff like that. Different users or groups can create separate workflows for their specific needs like compliance, auditing, etc. And to save time with repetitive shipments, our product database can store all of that information, such as tariff number, country, manufacturer, and a lot of the PGA data that you need to key in on a transactional level. You can also upload packaging labels or pictures to a product. A great idea if you're doing your due diligence. All of this, plus the ability to store all the generated documents like 7501, delivery orders, proof of filing for ISF, combined with external documents like the commercial invoices and shipping documents, make this an ideal paperless, digitized environment.
You know, who would have ever thought those onions we had on our plates last night required that amount of diligence?
Don, that was just for one food item. It can be even more daunting for other merchandise like chemicals, auto parts, and other goods. And in addition, CPSC, which is the Consumer Product Safety Commission, is another PGI on the horizon that will be asking for electronic data. So it's the same story, just different acronyms.
You know, definitely we need some oversight to make sure everything enters the country following all the rules and regulations. And yeah, there's a real need for strategies and methods that use tools effectively to add value and reduce risk. Let's transition to the value and utility technology tools can offer for customs and trade compliance. A key way to maximize the benefit enterprise software solutions can deliver for customs and trade compliance practitioners is to enable an automated flow of the right data at the right time. Steve, how do you see global trade and other supply chain technologies working together to deliver additive value?
Well, technologies like global transportation management, product integrity and order compliance, shipment and order visibility, and customs trading compliance are key sources and consumers of data that's vital to the smooth flow of goods through the supply chain, as most of you already know. The data needed for import, export, swift customs clearance, and ongoing transportation to the end customer begins with the purchase order in product development and global sourcing. That is when the essential data across the supply chain emerges. So thinking about bills of material, product dimensions, weights, HTS classification codes to optimize profitability, it's all of those coming at the global sourcing point.
You know, Steve, like you mentioned, technology really helps out with customs and trade rules, but you know, it also makes me think about how it could be super useful earlier in the supply chain. You know, I mean, like where suppliers and manufacturers are involved, right? They play a huge role in making sure everything from sourcing to validating goods before they're shipped is spot on. This has a big ripple effect, impacting things like meeting regulations, certification requirements, performance, being sustainable, and making sure deliveries are on time and complete. You can imagine how bringing all that data together and making it visible, then lining it up with stuff that happens later, like getting through customs and the whole transportation journey, really helps things run smoothly. It means we can avoid any mistakes or missing information. If we don't, we're probably looking at annoying and expensive delays or changes happening later on. Now let's transition to the role of the customer and what is important to them in these critical areas of the supply chain. Satisfying customer demand for safe, sustainable, and socially acceptable products while at the same time ensuring they meet changing import and export U.S. customs regulations while also juggling time to market, landed costs, and profit margins, that seems like a really tall order. Scott, how do you see customer success in this light? That is, keeping our customers happy so that they can keep their customers happy.
Well, Don and everybody on this call knows that all sorts of things can throw a monkey wrench into the process. Missing documents, census warnings, suspended releases, document requests, and all sorts of things. In MercuryGate's Customs and Trade Compliance platform, we have all sorts of ways to help manage these. Browser pop-ups, color-coded dashboards, push notifications, and our latest technology, Portal Chat. Imagine you're filing an entry and you're missing a document. Simply open up the chat and ask the importer for the information. If they're online, they can communicate with you, and they could even upload the documents directly without all that emailing back and forth. Workflows are also great if you're logged in, but how about scheduling a report that could remind you of your daily tasks? Seems like a good idea, huh?
Those are great examples of how specifically designed technology tools and features can really help an organization's customer service teams. They make sure all the stuff that's important to their customers is handled well. Now let's transition to ways you can best plan and validate where to invest to achieve the results and benefits that we've covered so far. From a customer's or customs brokerage executive's perspective, how do you know you're making the right investment at the right time to enable specialized technology to support the business? Steve, what are the risks and rewards we should be aware of as we work through these dimensions?
Well, I've been doing this now for well over 30 years, and that is the question that gets asked all the time, right? So I always ask, so for all of you, it's like, how robust is your current system? Can it enable you to go lights out? Meaning, can you complete an entry with no human interaction? Have you ever stopwatched the entry process? And I know some of you have. Do you understand your penalties and demurrage fees? Does your system have a comprehensive product table that lets you store all of your products with all the required documents needed to ensure all regulations are being followed? It's really important, from the submission, that the submission should be managed by a manager who understands the rules of that shipment, not leaving it to an operator who's just filling out the data. How well does your product help you to create, manage, and automate workflows? Are you able to change workflows depending on who the user is? Can your other supply chain partners access relevant data? Sharing the data across all your trade partners is now becoming critical. Does the technology vendor just sell you a solution, or do they partner with you to ensure success through ongoing support? As we've talked about earlier, and as you all know, customs compliance is one of the most complex processes to execute. Custom brokers and self-filers need a partner they can call to understand and quickly implement regulatory changes, and who you can work with in parallel to continuously improve your efficiencies. Lastly, does the technology vendor have a resonant vision of the role of technology in the future of customs data, filing, and clearance, as well as the broader supply chain of the shipper and business demands of the customs broker? That's absolutely critical as you're going forward and looking for a technology company to partner with? Are they all in? Because if they're not all in when it comes to customs clearance specifically, there could be a problem.
Steve, you're absolutely right with your points. From how well the technology fits what the organization needs to the flexibility and innovation it brings, and having a solid plan to introduce new tech and methods to tackle our challenges. Plus, the potential benefits we could achieve are really exciting. Let's close out by looking forward. What does the future hold for customers in trade compliance? We live in exciting times and see technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning offering gateways into new possibilities, not only automation, but whole new approaches to problem solving. What should executives responsible for customs and compliance and clearance be preparing for? Steve, and then Scott, where might all of this go?
Well, this is the funnest part of being a technologist, right? It's like you hear about the buzzwords like AI and you want to jump in and figure out how it's really going to help us. Today, we do have a lights out solution where the system is able to ingest all types of EDI files, have it loaded in the system, send to customs, get it back, send the information off to a trucker to move the goods. It's all great, right? But what we don't do is correct the data during the transfer or when it's loaded into the system. So the lights out is great when all the data is correct. The future is of the AI technology to understand that data being loaded and to automatically fix it, whether it be a missing piece of data or a customs regulation. It's the perfect application for AI. Another AI technology that's becoming very popular is pulling the data off of a PDF, a Word document, or even a picture, having that data loaded into the system as data to be submitted to customs or simply used for visibility and tracking. Commercial invoices and arrival notices are pretty popular asks at the moment, but I can see it a lot of other applications coming forward in the near future. And it's really not happening today. There are people that say they do it, but the reality is it's not accurate enough. If you're not at like over 95% accuracy, and Scott's going to say 99.9% accuracy, then it could be more time consuming than it's worth. And this certainly applies to all of the complex entries. Other areas that we're looking at for AI are the product tables. As part of AI, if something's changed or is updated when a file comes in, electronic receipt of files with incomplete information, AI should be able to just insert that needed data and help you clear the shipments, again, with no human interaction. So the benefits, as all of you know, a lot of it's pretty obvious. It's your operational efficiency and the accuracy of the information. So AI assigning HTS classification codes or making suggestive codes based on past history that applies to tariffs, it's obvious, it's critical, and it's coming. Scott, you want to expand on it?
Yeah, look, Steve, you know this as well as everybody on this call. The biggest cost to the customs broker is paying employees to key the data in, right? And as the cost of living increases, there's going to be a huge push for AI or machine learning to supplement those roles. As you mentioned, we continue to explore programs and processes to read the documents, but quite honestly, 95% accuracy, like you said, is not good enough. It may be good if you have a one-line entry and you need to correct something, but if you have 100 lines on an entry and you need to fix something on every line, where's the value add for that, right? So that's where I come from and how I look at these things, right? But however, the future's here already. We do Type 86 entries for low-value shipments. Businesses are pivoting from business to consumer to take advantage of some of these U.S. loopholes by transshipping through Canada or Mexico to avoid the duties and fees, especially if they're from China, right? So we have the ability to drop in a spreadsheet with thousands of shipments to create those individual entries and send them off to customs. Other items I see in the future is classifying products by description, building out an AI compliance engine and integrating into other MercuryGate products to go from first mile to last mile.
Scott, these are really thrilling areas where new technology is going to make a huge splash indeed. So organizations that pick the right partner, one with a clear vision and plan, are going to see benefits and capabilities way beyond what you'd get from smaller efforts. Personally, I'm super excited to see how all of this plays out. Now the question from audience members is, where can you go to understand more about MercuryGate's expanded product set, meeting the challenges being faced in global trade and compliance? We invite you to visit MercuryGate.com. That's where you can download our 2024 Guide to Thriving in Global Trade, MercuryGate Solutions for Customs Brokers and Importers. It highlights some of the challenges we've discussed and provides greater detail on the technology solutions available that can alleviate global trade complexity. That ebook pays particular attention to the role of customs brokers and how this technology makes their jobs easier and creates new operational efficiency across your organization. Of course, to learn more, we also invite you to contact us for a demo or a conversation. We can show you how our technology helps you and how it can integrate into your operations to eliminate errors, manual processes, and risks that exist when you bring products into the United States. Thank you to our audience for investing your time to learn more about customs challenges and how technology solutions can transform the organization's global trade and compliance operations. Now, I'll hand it back over to Michael for questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Don. Great information, great stuff for our audience there. And hey, you mentioned that ebook. I want to make sure our audience sees it. The Global Trade Solutions for Customs Brokers and Importers ebook is right there in the related content area of our webinar platform. Just please feel free to click and you can download that content today. Also in that related content area, you'll see a link to our website, MercuryGate.com. That'll show you all of our product offerings and allow you to access more information resources. Now, of course, our panel provided a lot of great information, but we've got some time remaining. And with that time, I'd like to go field a few questions from our audience. Please feel free to submit those in the Q&A panel there in our webinar. And guys, it looks like we've already got a few of them coming in. Scott, the first one appears to be for you, so I'll toss it to you. Scott, how do you keep up with all the customs and border protection changes, and how has technology tools helped filers to adapt?
Well, that's a really good question. First, you need to be engaged, right? So you need to be engaged with customs and all the agencies. I noticed there's somebody from FDA is on this call. I'm sure you may have heard me in some of these calls. You have to be engaged with them. You have to understand the whys. Listen, I'm on the TLC of the Trade Support Network, as well as the Trade Advisory Group. And all of this helps understand what's coming down the pike. But it's more important to know why it's coming down the pike. If you don't understand the why, you can't build the proper software. So, we also attend various trade conferences, and meetings are essential. And we also, reach out to our customers, for their point of view and what they see coming down as well. Does that help?
I think so. Hopefully that answered the question for our audience member. There's another one here for you, Scott, so stay there at the microphone. Okay. How do you ensure the accuracy of the information that's provided to Customs and Border Protection?
So listen, data is the data, right? We do a lot of validations, as you key things in, and, when you click on a button to send it to Customs, we do another validation to make sure that you didn't miss anything. It's up to the filer to ensure that the data is proper, right? We can't really tell if 6,000 was keyed in versus 600. That's up to you guys to decide. But we've added these things like auditing features for post-entry processes, right? We have workflows that we can build or help you build where you can list all the entries that are yet to be audited, and right from the workflow, you could view the entry, you can click on ACE history or anything else in between. And we even built a bulk audit feature to apply auditing statuses to multiple files at one time through a spreadsheet. So you don't have to, do one by one. And I also want to mention before there was, Steve talked about the reading off a PDF. I just want to make some clarifications. In our software, if you need to change like 100 lines in the country, or you made a mistake on the, exchange rate or the country of currency, we have a way to bulk change those, on 100 line items at a time. So we do have features that help you do all of that stuff. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thanks very much, Scott. Well, it looks like we got another question here from our audience. Please, can you help us to understand what implementation of this technology looks like for a customs broker? How disruptive to current operations is it, and how long does it take? Steve, you want to take that one?
Well, again, it depends on the size and scope of the implementation that you're talking about. We've seen 1 to 5 man shops able to get up and running fairly quickly on the system, where there's interruption because you still have to learn the system, but it's not a huge interruption because they're focused on it. To the 3 to 6 month implementations, where what we're looking for is buy-in from the executive team at the company, so that the organization that is putting in the new system is fully bought into, from the top to the operators doing the key punching, and the IT folks that are helping on the IT side are all bought in. But overall, it's like any other systems implementation. It's going to be disruptive to the user because they're going to have to learn a new system. But the good news with the cloud-based system is we take care of all the IT stuff. We take care of the connection to customs, and it's really your team's job is just to learn how to use the system. So it doesn't have to be that disruptive.
I'd like to add to that, Steve, as well. It also depends on, integrations, customized integrations. If you're using the accounting, nobody likes to use 2 accounting systems. Those are temporary in nature until we get everything going, but those are, important pieces too that people sometimes overlook.
Great information, very thorough. Appreciate you sharing that. Here's another question from our audience. I think maybe Don, this one will be good for you. And this person says they notice where MercuryGate also offers a global transportation management solution. Are there any plans to combine the two, and what benefit would that offer?
That's a great question. We definitely have plans to pursue increasing levels of integration between our different solutions, including things like shipment and order visibility and the customs and trade compliance capabilities that we've covered today. But we're going to expand the collection and display of these detailed customs activities and status, but we're going to reconcile those to the associated shipments. So that all will empower users with a much more comprehensive view of how things are going and where they may need to take action in order to minimize disruptions, avoid unplanned expenses, and even meet delivery commitments. Another area that comes to mind where we have identified a very intriguing edge case is between customs and trade compliance solution that we offer and MercuryGate's global transportation management system, where we offer a robust capability for the rating, optimization, tender, and tracking of inbound loads that originate at a customs release point through the final leg of the journey to the destination. So those are 2 relevant examples that definitely come to mind where we're looking to align the capabilities of each of these solution platforms that we offer to the market to provide greater utility and value for our customers.
Thanks, Don. Again, good information. And it does look like there are a couple more questions in our Q&A panel, but to be honest, I think those are probably going to be better for our team to address directly. And with that in mind, we'll probably go ahead and wrap up our webinar today. Want to thank everybody for sharing your time with us, and special thanks as well to Don Mabry for leading our conversation. To our other MercuryGate panel members, Steve and Scott, thanks so much for sharing a lot of great information. To learn more about MercuryGate Smart Transportation Solutions, please visit MercuryGate.com. That's where you can find out about our global trade management platform, as well as our TMS, claims management, final mile, and visibility solutions for your modern supply chain challenges. Again, you should see that in the resource center here in our webinar platform. There at the website MercuryGate.com, you can also access regular transportation industry updates in our Knowledge Center. Just look for the logistics landscape in the industry trends section of our resources page. You'll get updated economic indicators, news insights from our experts, our partners, and the transportation industry at large. Also in the Knowledge Center, you'll find the MercuryGate blog. It's updated weekly with topics focused on helping you achieve smart transportation across your supply chain. Subscribe to that today, and we'll send it direct to your email each time a new blog publishes. With that, on behalf of our panel of MercuryGate founders and everyone at MercuryGate International, thank you for joining us for this look at our logistics landscape.